Hello, and welcome to another episode of Jackson Talks Everybody, with me, your host, Jackson Stone. And before I introduce my very special and important guest, I just want to talk about a few housekeeping things, quick items first. Today is September 10th. This episode will come out after that, obviously, but the day, September 10th, is World Suicide Prevention Day, which is extremely important. So when you're listening to this episode, it'll probably be October, which means that the September is over. So that means Suicide Prevention Month is over, which means that there won't be as much press and tweets and social media posts about suicide prevention and mental health. You'll still see a lot from me, but as you're watching this, know that preventing suicide, talking about mental health, taking care of ourselves is a year-round thing, and we each individually can play a part in checking in on our friends, preventing suicide, posting lifelines, texting our friends, making sure we're there for them, checking in on ourselves. But it goes a lot deeper than that. It goes into trying to create availability and access and affordability for all mental health care, so all people feel like they can go and seek help for their mental health without having money issues or availability issues. It goes with taking down disparities in our education system, which have a lot to do with our mental health, people feeling like they're behind because of where they live or where they grew up or their environment. And all these kind of things play into our mental health, so it's important that we talk about it and take action about all of these things year round, not just during 1 month. But it's important to know that, of course, you are loved and your life matters, and keep holding on for all the amazing things that you're going to see, live, and be surprised by. So, yeah, cheers. Love you. All right, cool. But now to my guest. He is my new roommate. As you all know, the situation previous, we won't get into that. But we knew each other in high school.
We did.
We were in this Jewish youth group together called BBYO, which is pretty sweet. I was kind of an asshole back then. We might touch on that. We might not. But we reconnected at a friend's house while watching the Rangers game, like maybe 2 months ago. And the situation kind of worked out perfectly. And he moved in on September 1st. This is my new roommate, Joel.
How's it going, y'all? I'm Joel. First podcast ever doing.
Yeah!
Don't really know too much what to talk about, but yeah, Aaron and I, Jackson.
You can say Aaron, it's okay.
Okay.
Don't feel like you have to fumble over my name.
Okay.
It doesn't really matter.
Well, Jackson and I go back, to high school. 2 years older than me, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
When did you graduate? 2010?
Yes, 2010.
Yeah.
From Plano West, baby.
Plano Senior, so I guess rival high schools, but yeah, high school back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Knew each other through Jewish youth group, and it's been quite some time since I had last seen you, since we met back up at Tanner's place, our mutual friend, and yeah, I'm glad we did, because it worked out. I needed to get out of my parents' place for my own sanity and their own sanity, and everything happens for a reason, and I'm glad that the situation worked out.
Yes. Very much so. I think everything happens for a reason, in due time, for sure. It's hard to tell what those reasons are right away.
Oh, most definitely.
So you graduated high school. So for the people watching, I knew Joel was a good guy, and I heard from our mutual friends like Taylor, people you don't know, who I'm saying their names, you have no idea who they are, but it doesn't matter. Like these friends that we knew in our Jewish youth group. When I reconnected with Joel, I didn't really know like what his path had been since high school. I kept in touch. We kind of see what each other is doing through like social media, but you don't really know what social media or what someone's doing because it's just a social media lens, which is a very superficial lens of what people are doing.
And I'm not too active on social media just because I never really found it super healthy for me.
Sure.
And the people that I want to know what's going on in my life, I directly reach out to, or hope that they directly reach out to me. So not super public on social media, but you can, always look me up. I'm have a presence because it's welcome to 21st century, I guess.
Right.
It's inevitable.
Yeah. So really, I just kind of knew, asking you to be my roommate, I just kind of knew you were an overall good guy.
No, I appreciate everybody vouching for my goodness.
Yeah, and everyone that I talked to was like, yeah, he's a good guy. And I was like, I knew that in high school, really.
Yeah, no, I was relatively shy. I was still extroverted in high school, but I was very naive, didn't really know too much of, what goes on in the real world, but, times have changed since 2012, and,
They sure have.
I've grown, matured, learned a lot about myself, learned about the world, and, again, I believe that everything happens for a reason, things fall in place. You may not know exactly what those reasons are immediately, but there does get clarity. There is clarity in the future.
For sure. So you graduated high school 2012, and then what'd you do?
Yeah,
so what I was saying was that not only are you guys getting to know Joel a little bit better, but I am also in the same way getting to know him a little bit better.
Yeah, so my path has been a roller coaster of a ride since graduating high school. I wanted to get out of Texas, experience something new, so I ended up going to Arizona State University, go Sun Devils.
Sick. Hey, Barry Bonds, he went there.
Yes, he did, briefly. And ended up getting an undergraduate degree in computer information systems, so more of the IT background. Didn't really know what I wanted to do, just knew that I wanted job security and I wanted to make a decent living, basically, have the same standard of living that I had growing up. Did a great job making friends there, which I thought was going to be a really difficult time. I told myself when I initially went, I wasn't going to join a fraternity. First semester, I ended up joining a fraternity. That's where I ended up meeting some of my best friends that I still talk to today that are all over the U.S. as well. And then let's see. I guess the big big spark for my career happened going into my senior year of college. I had an internship with State Farm Insurance in their IT department. That sent me to Bloomington, Illinois. So if you're not familiar where Bloomington, Illinois is, it's central Illinois. Think farmland, hence farm and State Farm. We're surrounded by cornfields. Really nothing in central Illinois, so I knew I didn't want to be staying there, but I ended up getting the same internship during my senior year, which was in Tempe, Arizona, and coincidentally that translated to a full-time job offer. But the job offer was back here home in Dallas. So in 2016, I ended up packing everything, every bit that I had in Arizona, moved back home in with my parents, to save some money financially, pay off some student loans and debt, because yay, that's a nice chunk of change out of the pocket every month. Fortunately, now there's a slight halt on that in interest, which is nice, but I loved what I was doing in IT. I loved the State Farm people, the brand. It was a great company to work for. And so doing an IT analyst role for a year and a half, I ended up getting promoted really quickly after a year and a half to the IT internship coordinator and supervisor for the program here in Dallas. And that was kind of my dream job ever since being an intern myself. I saw what kind of influence and empowerment you could have on college students who kind of didn't know what their career path was, in the same boat as me just a few years ago, trying to discover really what you want to do with life. So that was my dream job that I ended up getting, and it's something that I was very, very passionate about. I'm very passionate about education, learning, and ultimately helping people, and I thought that this was a very fitting role. A lot of people saw me as the underdog just because of my age. I was 24 at the time, but I found it advantageous to me because I was more relatable to people that were in college than those that were so far removed. So that was kind of my dream job. And then I found out the company was doing a little bit restructuring, and that gave me, and I didn't know if I was going to have some job security. And so that gave me some time to reflect on, what were my career goals? Where did I want to go in life? And initially, when I did apply to State Farm, it was so that I could stay in Tempe at their new hub that they had just built there. And I was very glad to take the job here in Dallas, but hoped that it would eventually bring me back to Arizona. But unfortunately, it didn't happen in the time frame that I would have liked. So I saw this restructuring as an opportunity for me to leave a job in a company that I loved so much, to go back to my network, my friends that I had made, and ended up packing up to move back to Arizona in April 2018. From there, I ended up moving in with my grandmother. Shout out, Grandma.
Thanks, Grandma. You're a real one.
She is not the easiest person to live with, but she is one of my favorite people in the world. Great role model. She's 83, still works part-time.
83?
Yeah, she's 83, still works part-time. She's got 4 great-grandchildren. And she's gonna live forever, in my opinion. Her mom lived to 99, and unfortunate circumstances ended life. But my grandmother's great. Let's see.
Hold on. Let me stop you right there and talk about college first.
Yeah.
So, growing up, was college for you, was it mandatory? Like, your parents were like, you have to go to college no matter what? Or was it something you wanted to do and they kind of said, this would be good for you? Or was it always something that felt like a natural progression for your life?
So, it was definitely something that they, push. They didn't really push on me, but it was definitely present. There's this thing back in the day called the Texas Tomorrow Fund, which is a fund that they put money in when I'm growing up that'll pay for my college here in Texas. Well, we see how that all worked out, as I did not want to stay in Texas. I needed a change of environment, change of scenery. Going back to high school, I was fairly shy. I didn't have like a super close, I had a close knit of friends, but I didn't have like a wide variety of friends, and I needed to just get out and try something new. So, and the other thing is, growing up in Plano, I've kind of felt like that was a societal and not obligation, but kind of, it's just what we did after high school.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel like going to the community college because I wanted to go and get the 4-year college experience. And getting out to Arizona State was just the best opportunity I felt for me at the time. My dad's an alumni there, and like I said, my grandma's out in Phoenix, so it wasn't that I didn't have a good foundation when I moved out there. I had a good understanding of the area, but I did feel a little bit pressured in, I guess, the direction and the choices of career path or a major that I was going to pursue. So one of the things that I was really into in high school, I'm a trombone player. I've been playing trombone for 15 years now. And actually, it was my trombone teacher in high school that kind of talked me out of pursuing music as a career.
Interesting. Why do you think that was?
Because kind of my sheltered mind back in high school was what you can do with the trombone is either, go to college, get that Bachelor of Music degree, which really is only applicable towards music, and then you go and you try to work for a symphony orchestra, which is, in a symphony, there are only 2 tenor trombone rolls and sometimes a third. And if you don't get that, then you're going to be sitting in a 6 by 8 foot practice room for your life just teaching trombone. So, he kind of knew, again, my standards of living and stuff like that, and that kind of, I thought, gave me a clear vision of, okay, this, I could still have a hobby and try to get a career at the same time. Throughout college, I still played the trombone. I played it with the trombone choir which is the trombone ensemble. The ASU Trombone Desert Bones. I know. Great name. But
you were a desert boner.
Yes, exactly. So I did have, a hobby still, and I still had a career path that suited my standards of living.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, where was I going?
Well, looking back at that conversation with your musical teacher, do you think it helped or hindered your life going forward?
I'm not going to say it necessarily hindered my life because, I can't necessarily go back on the choices that I made, but I think I definitely would have been happier going forward. Not to say that I necessarily know that for sure, but being young, when you're young, you're very impressionable. Mm-hmm. The people that you really look up to leave a lot of impressions on you. And so I was still in that mindset of growing and learning and still trying to figure out, okay, what is the real world going to be like post-college? I hear this, the horror stories of people going to music school, going to get their master's in it, and then they're stacked up on student debt, and then they're either, like I said, teaching the practice room, or they're doing something completely else with their degree. My teacher right now, he's now working as a field service engineer because he just didn't think that trombone for himself was also applicable. So, the people that you really look up to and are role models to you, they leave big impressions on you. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what led me to not pursue a career in trombone or any musical path. And that's kind of what led me into IT. My first information systems class I really enjoyed and I excelled at, and I was the one that was helping everybody else. It's kind of, the business world, you going back to the parents pushing me to college. It's not that they pushed me to go a certain career path, but really all I knew in a career and how to make my own standard of living was what they do. My dad works in IT, my mom works in marketing research. Sure. So that's really the realm of what I knew back then. And that doesn't necessarily mean it was the right path. It doesn't mean that it was the wrong path.
Absolutely.
It just wasn't.
It was the path.
It was the path for me at the time.
Yeah.
So going back to when I left my job at State Farm to go to Phoenix, moved in with Grandma. Mm-hmm. I was struggling a lot, especially mental health wise. My anxiety was really bad. So to give you a little bit of background on my anxiety, I've had an anxiety disorder since elementary school. I could think of times having panic attacks back then. It'd definitely be a roller coaster at times. I was bullied a lot in middle school, even in high school sometimes, just because puberty hit late on me. I still don't have the lowest frequency of a voice. It could still crack at any moment, and
I hope it does on the show.
I wouldn't be surprised if it does.
Yeah.
But my confidence was, there we go. My confidence was definitely very low and had taken a hit and definitely left a very impactful situation in my life. And I think that's what's a lot of times too has contributed to my anxiety. So being back in Arizona without a job, living off my savings, living with my grandmother, who's mm-hmm. definitely not changing a damn thing about her. She's 80 plus, so she is stuck in her ways. I mean, I love to say what she did. She has her nightly routine where she would, come home, sit at her computer, play solitaire, smoke her cigarettes inside the house, which was not enjoyable. She doesn't run the air conditioning in the summer and doesn't run the heater in the winter. It's like a static 80%. Inside the house, so it's just not very tolerable for me. And she watched reruns of Shark Tank that she believed were new episodes.
Oh, that's tough.
So, she wasn't the easiest person to live with, but I was very grateful that I had a place to go that I could pack up and attempt to look for work while I was there. Mm-hmm. did end up finding a job, and that did not last too long just because it wasn't the right fit for me. My anxiety had been getting severely worse. There had been a time where I had to come back to Dallas for like a week just to kind of reset it, go see my doctor, make sure my medicine was all working for me.
In terms of your anxiety, did you start taking medication like right away?
I've been on medication since elementary school. I've been seeing a psychiatrist, therapist, mostly psychiatrists that are just there to diagnose the cause rather than get into the root of it. There's, a big difference between psychiatrists, which can prescribe, and therapists who are there more to coach and to help you understand more about your life. So I've been on meds and every different, anxiety med that you can think of. Still take medication just because it really, really helps a lot of things. But I think there's definitely a stigma, that a lot of people, there's anxiety, which is both a healthy and, it could be a destructive emotion. Like there's definitely healthy anxiety when you're excited about something. You could be anxious, stuff like that. But I think a lot of people don't necessarily know how to manage their emotions. So their first thought is go and get medication, which I think isn't necessarily productive in terms of trying to manage your levels of anxiety. But for me, because it's been a pattern of going back since elementary school, that the medication, I've been on several different ones, and it just it helps me manage it better. I'd also get panic attacks, so that's a big thing that I would need my medication for if I were to have a panic attack. That definitely calms me down, because it's not just always a mental thing. I don't think people realize that anxiety just doesn't come in, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, or there's something preventing me. But I actually would get physical symptoms from my anxiety, or when I had panic attacks. I throw up, I dry heave, I'd get anxiety tics. It ranges from burping to my eyebrows raising and ears moving when levels of anxiety are high. And they used to think it was Tourette's before realizing it's not Tourette's. It's just a side effect of having anxiety sometimes is you'll get these tics. And I've never really been super open about that, but it's important to understand that these sort of things can happen to somebody with an anxiety disorder, or the physical symptoms as well.
Right.
And that's even with medication. Anxiety it's truly a roller coaster. You're going to have your ups and your downs, even when it's manageable. Like right now, I feel like I'm in a really, really good position. Doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to have an episode or going to have a relapse at some point where I'll reach a low, but I just know that that's a low point at the time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that things aren't going to get better, because I know that, when my grandma says, this too shall pass, and it really does. And
everything's temporary.
Yeah, everything really is temporary, even though the anxiety disorder I don't see going away anytime soon. It's just how I've learned to manage it, and through a mix of like I said, medication and going to see a therapist, those two things intertwined. And then, of course, support of family and friends, and just being able to have people to talk to outside of that is also, the most important thing that's been able to manage my anxiety. So,
couple questions. First, thank you for sharing.
Of course.
So one time I was told that anxiety, when you're having an anxiety attack, it kind of feels like, okay. Anyways,
it's happened to me before.
Say you're sitting on, you're on a train track.
Yeah.
And you're sitting in the middle of the train track, and anxiety is kind of seeing the train come all the way at you and then not hitting you, and then it's starting back all the way far again. and it's just a repetitive thing of like the train almost hitting you, but not, and then it's starting to come again.
That's a really interesting analogy, because a lot of times when the anxiety starts hitting, you could definitely feel it in your chest. You could feel it in your gut. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely... It really depends on the situation for it to feel like a train is coming towards me and then just resetting but never really hitting me.
Right.
Like, there's times... one of the big things that I'll get is transitional anxiety. So, like, when I'm doing something, about to transfer to a new job or a new place, or even going on vacation to a new state, city, country, whatnot... just the unknowns will give me anxiety, but that doesn't necessarily mean like I'm scared or anything. It's just, I'm excited, or, I don't really know what to anticipate. Yeah. So, that train track analogy is good, but it's definitely situational, because I feel like in that situation, it's more of like you're afraid of something coming at you.
Yeah.
Whereas there's definitely those moments, but, I haven't really thought of a good analogy for the different situations that I experience my anxiety with.
Yeah, I haven't heard or seen or been educated on any other good analogies, because I'm not one that suffers from anxiety. Mm-hmm. So like, obviously I don't know how you feel.
Yeah.
But from just like doing a lot of research over the last couple of years on all these kind of different things and speaking to a lot of different people, I think what those important with managing anything like that is like understanding like what you need in the moment. Like, cause like even if you're on medication or you see a therapist, which are brilliant things that people should do if they feel that that's where they need or what is good for them. But like in the moment when something is about to happen, or you feel you're about to get anxious about something maybe negative, cause it's good to get anxiety or anxious over like something that you're excited about, Maybe you have like a big thing you're doing and you're like a little anxious because you want to do well, but you've prepared for it and all these other different circumstances, right? But maybe it's a negative kind of anxiety coming on. You got to kind of understand what you need in the moment and be able to like have those coping strategies in that period of time to be able to get through that. Because anxiety, again, is a temporary thing. Like having an anxiety attack is a temporary thing.
Yeah, it comes in like I said, I guess my analogy is the roller coaster. You're going to have your highs, you're going to have your lows, but ultimately the ride is going to just keep going and not necessarily come to an abrupt halt like it does. It's up and down. So I guess a better analogy instead of the roller coaster is it's more like a Ferris wheel. You go up, you go down, you go up, but it's kind of constant.
So for you, if you feel like an anxiety attack is coming, is there something that you do like immediately to try to help that?
I definitely try to recognize the source. The big people that I'll always talk to are my parents, because, they're my biggest supporters in life, even though sometimes it feels like they really just know how to bring out the anxiety in me a lot more times. But, ultimately I know I'm in their best interest. So definitely I'm a talker. So talking it out with people and just trying to not necessarily, just restructure my thoughts on what the situation is. Yeah. Even this morning, I had a job interview, and, I definitely, right before I get in, got onto the Zoom meeting, not in person anymore, but you could definitely feel the heart beating, a little bit of sweating coming through. But then once you get that human-to-human interaction, like I saw her dog, it's really just another step in the process. So, right. Just being and I'm also aware of when something new is going to come and there might be an increase of anxiety, that, through patterns, I've been able to tell, okay, this is going to happen. So this is what I need to do, like focus on my breathing, or just not, or try to find something else, like something that's a healthy coping mechanism. Some people, work out. Some people go for a walk. I like to go for a walk occasionally, reset my mind. I listen to a lot of music. Music definitely reflects my mood. But also, rest is another really important thing, and it's almost like a,
You say rest?
Rest.
Yes.
I tell people my favorite position is horizontal. I like to be lying down a lot.
Tits up, baby.
I know. So I just, sometimes I need to just lie down and, take a quick nap or something to reset my mind, because it truly can be really, really productive at times, just having a nice refresher, just knowing what you like, to be able to take your minds off the things that, you're just overthinking about sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So those are kind of the things that I did.
Love it. That's good.
So, going back to, when I was in Phoenix, and I was working for a company that just wasn't a good fit. My anxiety had been getting super high, and completely unmanageable, to the point I was having 2 panic attacks a day.
This is the worst it ever been for you?
The worst it had ever been for me. And
This 2018?
This was 2018, fall of 2018, and my parents were on a trip in Asia, and that's 12, 13 hours apart difference, so I couldn't really get in contact with them, and it had gotten to the point I was calling out, sick, and I had just still been relatively new, and it's at that point one of our family friends who is a doctor, suggested that I go and seek, further help. So I got some more intensive care in order to help me manage the anxiety. It helped me realize a lot of things. That's why I didn't stick with that job too long. And my biggest fear, I think, at that moment was my fear of failure, and that I didn't want to have to leave Phoenix to come back and move, back home. And because that was really my motivation for leaving the State Farm job, was to start a new life in Phoenix. But I wasn't really, the 3-year gap that I was, or 2-year gap that I was between college and college and moving back. While I was here in Dallas, the people that I was friends with in college that stayed back, grew closer together, and I wasn't as involved as we used to be, or as it used to be. Things changed, and that's kind of how it was too when I moved back here after college. Was the friends and such that I had in high school, and a lot of them went to college together, grew closer, ended up moving back here too. And while I had a select few friends, it just wasn't the same hanging out every day, doing our usual hangouts and watching sports and stuff like that. But
did you feel like you were out of the loop?
I definitely felt like I was out of the loop a lot of times, because again, and this goes back to why I don't use social media a lot, is you'd see the sort of stuff on social media. The worst, I think, for me had to be Snapchat, was seeing people out, because that's something that you take while you're there and post up while you're there. So seeing some mutual friends getting together and knowing that I wasn't invited, or I wasn't being included, and saw the pattern of not being included, really kind of stirred the emotions for me.
It hurt, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely really, really hurt. So getting rid of Snapchat was definitely one of the best things I could have done, probably, for my mental health, just because I don't want to know what they're doing. I don't want to know that I'm not being included. I want to be able to take control of my own situations and how I'm feeling when it comes to relationships and friendships. So definitely that was a rough patch, was not really Phoenix going how I had envisioned or had in my mind, and that definitely stirred my anxiety, because I am goal oriented. I'm a visionary, and when things don't necessarily achieve the vision that I want, it definitely puts a dent in the anxiety. So after some further evaluation, I figured that it was best that I return home to Dallas early of 2019. And there was just a lot of getting my mental health back into place.
Yep.
I tried doing, transcendental meditation. I'm not sure if you're completely familiar with what that is. It's basically where you take 2 times a day for 20 minutes to just relax in a quiet space and say your mantra. I had heard about it through Howard Stern, who I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah, I meditate every morning.
And he does meditation, and a bunch of other people I hear do it, and it's been really successful. The only thing, that I didn't really care for too much about it was the fact that you need silence and stuff, and I don't do well with silence because that leads to ruminating thoughts for me. Not necessarily negative ones, but it's hard just to keep my mind focused. Like even when I go to bed at night, I'm always having like the TV or something on just because I like that background sound.
Sure.
So I gave Transcendental Meditation a try. But the biggest thing that honestly helped me was I found a therapist that was the right fit for me.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Say that for the people.
You got to find somebody that is truly the right fit for you. And the big thing is just having somebody that'll listen too. And being able to... Another hard thing that I had a difficult time doing was expressing my emotions in a healthy manner.
We as men have trouble doing that.
Yeah, and
just in general, all of us, all over the world.
Yeah, and it's not even that I would just suppress my emotions, but I just had a difficult time talking about my emotions, and so having a physical graph of like emotions that I could say, this is how I feel and that's how I feel. And a lot of my, I realized a lot of the emotions that I felt were guilt and shame. Like I felt, and guilt and shame go hand in hand together. They're basically twins. And I felt guilty for, some of the stuff I had done in my past. I felt that I was bringing shame upon, my parents and all that.
Because you weren't doing exactly what everyone had envisioned for you, or what?
Not necessarily what everyone had envisioned, but what I had envisioned for myself. I mean, I tell people, I don't really know what my purpose in life is other than, I guess, fulfilling my parents' legacy and being successful, because they're successful. My grandma's successful. My family, they're all successful, financially, just mentally, and friendship-wise. I felt like there was a predetermined narrative and image that I had to fulfill, and the fact that I wasn't being able to fulfill those, I was having a lot of the shame and guilt. And seeing the therapist definitely has helped me be able to express those emotions a lot more, especially when it came to my parents. The big thing that when you're expressing your emotions is using I statements, not you statements or this and that. You need to tell how I'm feeling, not that you're making me feel this way, but right. I feel this way because...
we're in control of our emotions.
Exactly. So... and it also gives you that level of empowerment. I mean, the group that I call... it's called, well, not group, but his practice is called Empowered Maturity.
Awesome.
And it's learning how to empower yourself and grow and learn and that sort of realm. So seeing my therapist has been extremely, extremely helpful, and it's gotten me to reevaluate my goals and visions and aspirations in life. And, one of the big things that I realize is, money doesn't necessarily buy you happiness. I mean, Mark Cuban, I think, says, money doesn't buy happiness, but money will make you a lot happier. But
it can ease the stress, right?
Yes, it could.
If every day you're worried about what your next meal is going to be, if your house is going to get paid for, if your rent is going to get paid, if your car's, that's very stressful, obviously, and it causes you to be stressed.
Exactly.
So it obviously makes things easier, but the happiest people can have the littlest amount of things because things aren't that important.
Yeah, I mean, there's this familiar story, of this Indian prince who was completely sheltered in his kingdom and was given everything he wanted, had all the amount of money, had his servants, had all this sort of stuff, and he wasn't allowed to go on the outside, and he ended up one day escaping and going on the outside and living a very minimalistic life. Well, that guy, that Indian prince that we all know of today, his name is Buddha. And so learning about how, you know, he came from this background just to live a non-materialistic life, you know, shows that there's happiness isn't necessarily through materialism or money or stuff like that. But, you know, like you're saying, you definitely need to be able to make ends meet in order to
just to, you know, have what you need to live, to
exactly.
eat, to get to places, you know,
exactly,
to have a little fun or take some trips. But overall, your happiness is created inside.
Exactly, and
usually when you put out that kind of energy and that kind of vibe and that kind of frequency, things just start to good relationships come your way, good job offers come your way, and it's just like in flow of life.
Exactly. Happiness leads to success, in my opinion, because if you're not happy, then you're not really doing anything. It's a little more self-destructive, if anything. And so during that time of being back home and reflecting, you know, I thank God every day I have the parents that I do that were able to support me while I was trying to figure stuff out. I ended up going back to school at the community college that I didn't want to go to.
Colin?
And it's not even a community college.
No, it's a 4-year school now.
It's a 4-year school.
Yeah, I think the place is awesome.
Yeah, the place is incredible.
It's actually right down the street from everybody.
I was about to say, it would have been ideal had I been living, well, not that I lived far from it anyway, but I discovered that they actually had a good audio engineering program. Like I said, been a trombone player for 15 years. Music was something that I had considered before going back to, or before going to undergrad, before being talked out of it. And I thought it would be a good balance between my IT background and my musical background, because it really is both an art and a science at the same time.
Yeah, it's hard. It's very hard.
So yeah, I've been giving Jackson, you know, various tips and tricks on the potting and the microphones.
Watch out for my audio just to be sick, because when I first started this podcast, audio was trash.
Well, yeah, you're probably, I mean...
And then someone was really nice enough to send me these mics, because they're like, hey, we listen to your podcast, it's really good, but we can't fucking hear you.
Yeah, no, that's definitely... And you know, there's a whole bunch of factors that go into audio, but
anyways, we're on the up and up here.
Yeah, so I ended up going back to... going back to school, and that program took a year. It was full-time. I wasn't working really during that. I got some contract work through my mom's marketing research company here and there, but it really wasn't too much or not enough really, to make ends meet. So I was very, very fortunate and lucky to have the parents that I do. I may not say I love them every day, but I definitely try to express, like I said, those feelings to them, that I'm very, very appreciative, and let them know that.
Good. Talk about my parents a lot on the show, so
yeah.
Let it out, baby. Let the love out.
Yeah, they're great. Plus, I'm not going to lie, having a dog back home makes things a lot better. Just having, somebody that's going to always show you unconditional love is the dog. I would love to get one.
I want to get one
day.
I want to get one for this house.
So yeah, she. If I'm not here, I'm usually going back to the house. Not necessarily to see the parents, but to see the dog. Also see the parents, but the dog takes the priority.
I get it.
There's something about petting a dog that's just really soothing too.
It's so nice. It's comforting. They love you. They're there.
Exactly, and
they just look at you with such happiness.
Yeah,
they lick your face. I'm like, yep.
And I also feel like, that could be a great way to meet people too, is by having a dog.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. You go to the dog park and they just mingle. You just mingle easy.
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to find common ground with other people with the dog. But
so you were at Colin, you crushed it for a year?
Yeah, I crushed it for a year. I actually hadn't done that well. I was very academically focused and driven and trying to perfect my art, but the big, I guess, the barrier, I guess you could say, is the audio industry and being like in the studio or working in music, sound, film, that sort of stuff. in Dallas, it's hard to see clearly of where this path can take you if you're not in LA, New York, Nashville, any of the big music hubs. So the question I always, that rattled me up, or I try to avoid at times, was, so what do you plan on doing with this degree? And it's not even a degree; it's a certification, and that doesn't mean anything. I took it as more of trade school. I learned it. I went to go gain a skill set, and now I have a hobby that I'm always, at my computer trying to hone in my skill sets and
I totally get
stuff
that.
like that. But I was thinking about starting my own just freelance audio engineering business, which I still do have, Sand Sound Studio. It's kind of a play off my last name. And the goal was to, hopefully find clients, but you really have to be able to put yourself out there. And I've never been really great at selling myself. I always sell myself short. And a lot of that, I think, stems from the lack of confidence from back in the days. That's why I don't love doing sales. That's not a career path for me. But that also, too, led to some anxiety and like, what am I going to do with this now that I have this? I don't want it to just not be put to use.
Right.
Which that in turn, going back to my therapist, it's like, what am I going to be doing with my life, and having this conversation with my parents that, sometimes you're going to have to do something that you don't like in order to get to something that you do like. And that started off with, me driving for food delivery, doing food delivery, and, Postmates, just on-demand job. And the most reason why I did that
just to get a little time reference, when did you finish the Colin Gear thing?
So I finished Colin in May, which
of 2019.
No, 2020. So this year. So actually,
in the middle of the pandemic.
And so okay. My last 8 weeks were as COVID hit. So that was a nice transition. And it's not easy to do audio work when you're when you're not in the studio per se. There were a lot of barriers and limitations that I had to navigate around. But successfully did so. Now I wish I could be in. The best part about audio engineering and being in the studio is the people and the camaraderie that you're built there. I mean, there's something magical that happens when you're making music with other people. So that was kind of the thing that I definitely missed the most about being in the classroom. But we still were able to navigate, through living on Zoom and stuff like that. So. Yeah, navigating through the pandemic was definitely interesting, and that also was kind of a barrier when it came to looking for work in this field. Like, I was supposed to go to a wedding in April in LA, and I was going to spend some time in Studio City or Burbank, or go and try to network while I was there just to learn more about the industry. And that ended up getting postponed indefinitely. So I haven't been to LA. I know the studios are kind of, not a lot of people are going in and out of them just because, the last thing you want people doing is breathing on the microphone during COVID. So,
sure. Do you know anyone who lives in LA?
I do. And I actually, there's somebody I went to high school with that she does this for a living. And she actually was in a very similar situation where she went to college for studying audio engineering and had a lot of periods of questioning, what am I going to do with this? Where will this take me? Needless to say, she now works in Disney Animation and worked on Frozen 2,
which is cool.
Wreck-It Ralph 2, and very other.
I need to watch Frozen 2. I've only seen Frozen 1.
I haven't seen either of them.
All right, we're ripping that up after this.
So, my sister's always watching it. No, I'm more of the Marvel, Disney kind of person, and Star Wars. So just hearing that, success story had really inspired me, and I actually reached out to her. She was one of those that I was hoping that I could connect with while I was out there and maybe get a studio tour. But because of COVID, getting a formal internship or something just started to appear to be a lot less likely for me.
Well, whenever we can, let's go to LA because I have a lot of friends there and I like LA.
I love LA. Yeah, I got family, I got friends. My best friend just got a job with the courthouse, the county of LA. Cool. So
we're going to LA.
He's like
Joel and Jackson take LA.
Yeah, he's my best friend. Absolutely, like the guy that I went to for all my problems. He's the one that
your homie.
Yeah, the guy that I call to.
What's his name?
His name's Connor. Shout out Connor. Miss ya. The one that I could call up crying if something was wrong and stuff like that, and he'd always be there for me. So
beautiful.
That best friend I could ask for.
And he lives there.
Just moved to LA this month.
Wow.
Yeah, he was in San Diego working.
Cool. So he knows the California vibe then.
Yeah. He's from Phoenix and ended up wanting to get to California.
Sweet.
Super cool guy. So yeah, I don't really know where audio engineering is taking me right now, but I know that I needed to, speaking with my therapist, the big thing that I wasn't doing the one thing I was doing was being fairly unproductive. And, the idea of being productive is different for everybody. Some people need to always stay busy sometimes. Some people it's just going to work and doing their thing. For me, I wasn't really, it was, I'd wake up, I'd read, I'd, do some exercise, I'd do some mixing with what I had, but it wasn't really anything that was furthering me towards a goal of getting back into a working world, because that's one of the things that gave me a lot of anxiety was being in a corporate structure. I'm fine with authority, but I like to be my own boss and be able to take the reins of my own path. And it's taken me some time to be able to figure out how to manage all of that. Like right now, I don't have any issues if I need to work for corporate for a little bit. But understanding that cultural fit is a very important thing to me, and having people that will empower you and help you grow is something that's very, very important. But the big thing that my therapist said is, he told me about how the Newton's first law is very applicable to mental health. So for those who don't know what Newton's first law is, an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion. So I was just that sitting tennis ball, not really moving. And what needed to happen was to give me a little push on the butt to get me going, and that's when I signed up for the food delivery, and most of that wasn't necessarily to make money, because it's definitely not an economical way of living. It's a good supplemental way of living. Sure. But I needed to get out of the house for my own sanity. Yeah. So that was definitely helpful, especially since my sister had just moved back home too. And
how old is she?
She is 24.
Okay. So full house.
Yeah, and she's in her last semester. She's actually student teaching right now at a school, first grade.
Nice.
So
congrats.
It wasn't ideal, being 26 and being one big happy family again.
Mm-hmm. It's a tough transition.
I want to be independent. That's my main goal, and that's, of course, I think anybody's goal, especially parents, is to help their children grow up to be independent.
Yeah.
And so getting that job kind of got the ball rolling for me, and from there, this was like late July when I started doing this. And I knew that I had an October deadline given to me by my parents that I would need to move out. And it wasn't like an ultimatum. It was out of love that they needed me, knowing that my independence and them not being surrounded by me, and me just thinking that they're always, on my left and right shoulder looking after me, that I needed to get out of the house and be able to do my own things. And that's when, I believe in a higher power. To me, it's God, and I truly believe that He had a path set for me. Mm-hmm. I got my ball rolling with the delivery, and then I had reached out to Tanner to watch the baseball game with him, and that's when I ran into you, and I had found out that Seth, Tanner's younger brother, bought a house, and I was like, hey, quick plug, but if you need a roommate, let me know. And I guess that's when, you said that you had an extra place, and, I wasn't necessarily going to be the one to reach out, but I was so thankful that you ended up, reaching out to me on Facebook. So, I honestly, I truly felt like that was, God speaking to me that things were starting to head in the right direction, that I had got my wheels turning, and that they were really starting to turn.
For me too.
And from there, I ended up getting contract work through even bigger contract work through my mom's company. I ended up meeting a guy online through an engineering like group, who needed a trombone player to record for some of his big band jazz stuff. So I ended up doing some of that for him. And then again, when I was at a quick socially distanced get together, the other week, there was a girl there that was telling me about her company and how she loves it. She's always talking about it with a smile, so that, my background can be really applicable. And after just, tens and dozens and of just generic rejection letters from companies that I've been applying to, the day that I applied is the day that I heard back. So again, I felt like that was, God speaking to me that, things are really headed in a right direction. And so the momentum is, the wheels are turning, and hopefully, they're not going to be slowing down anytime soon. It really took that initial spark of motion in order to get things to start falling in place like a domino effect. And, like I said, I'm a firm believer in everything happening for a reason, but holding on to that piece of faith definitely was a big thing for me. Moving into here, one of the best things I think I heard my dad say was, I haven't really noticed that your transitional anxiety hasn't shown. I haven't heard you, have a panic attack or throw up or any of that sort of stuff. And I really felt my anxiety was fairly manageable, knowing that things were starting to fall into place at the right time. So I couldn't have been, more grateful for how things were going. And a lot of that, again, I give, gratitude to my therapist for helping me realize the things that I need to do. Gratitude to my family for giving me that little smack in the butt, saying, we need you to be independent.
Right.
And then, of course, God for
it's putting exactly where you need to
be. For putting me where I need to be, that things are going to happen for a reason. So,
absolutely.
That's a little bit about how I got to where I am now, and hopefully, the future is looking bright for me. And that's not to say, like I said, I'm still on that Ferris wheel. I'm sure that there will be a time where I hit a low point,
sure.
But I know right now a lot more of how to manage those emotions, manage the anxiety, and be able to recognize that, it is just a spiral, and that this is just a temporary barrier that I'll be able to get over, and there will be much better, brighter things for me. Because life, you might think life is fairly, just a straight line, but it really is all over the place. Mm-hmm. And, there's so many different factors that contribute to that. The people, the things you do, the work you do, all that sort of stuff helps contribute their path. There's a reason why the game of life is all windy and stuff.
Right. There's so many different,
just a straight line.
There's so many different pivots you're going to make in life, right?
So yeah,
we have like these intentions and these desires to go to a certain place, and we may eventually get there. But what's important is knowing that you can take a left or a right turn and still make it to that same spot. It just doesn't have to be like this.
Exactly.
But a wise man once told me, peaks and valleys, man. Peaks and valleys.
Exactly.
And that's, very few words, but it makes sense, right? So it's just about understanding that the valleys are gonna last a shorter amount of time if you understand how emotionally resilient you are, like what stuff you need in the moment to get you out of those valleys, and that you can ride those peaks a little longer, knowing that you're grateful for each moment, appreciating the present, and just like, being nice also is important.
Like Grandma says, this too shall pass. And I never really fully understood what that meant. Like, when I have long spurts of anxiety, like, Grandma, I know you're from a different generation where they didn't really talk about this or understand this as much, but, I never really thought, like, this is always going to be with me, but this too shall pass. Yeah, you'll hit your peaks and your valleys, but she's still a big supporter of mine, and really full of wisdom. Your elders, even if they don't always understand what's going on, they have a lot of relatable experiences.
She's coming into town though, right?
Today.
Grandma comes to Dallas.
Get to see Grandma. I don't really know what we're going to be doing, but at least it'll keep my parents occupied, and she lives alone, so it'll be nice to give her something to do. She got 4 great-grandchildren in Nashville, so those definitely kept her on her toes when she would spend some time there.
That's a place that I want to move to.
Nashville?
Yeah.
It's an interesting place.
Figuring out where I want to go,
Post
after
Dallas.
Yeah, I'll probably have this place forever, just maybe not live here forever, but maybe rent it out or whatever.
Yeah, build your equity.
But, I'd like to move different places. I think it's really... Like, it's obviously, like you said, by going to ASU, right, it's really important to experience new places and new environments, new people, to diversify, to have variety in your life, right? So...
Yeah, and it's definitely at college where I realized, like, there's, I don't know if anybody else has heard of the term, but the Plano bubble. We're kind of in this bubble.
A bit, yeah.
And getting out and just meeting all these different people from different backgrounds and stuff like that has really opened my eyes up to, how big, or how different the world is, how diverse it is. And, just being able to get out and experience the new things has definitely given me a change of perspective than I was the shy and, more naive person that you knew in high school has allowed me to really expand and grow.
Yeah. For sure. We're both not the same people that we were in high school.
Most definitely not.
Which I think is really beautiful and important to note, right? Because we're always evolving and growing and changing. But going back to you and you're in like your creative career of audio engineering, that wasn't something that was like having a creative career, like an entrepreneurial type job, wasn't something that was. Did you think that wasn't like allowed when you were younger, or just wasn't something that was in your realm because of what your parents did and kind of what you saw yourself doing as like a natural pattern?
Yeah, I'm not going to say that my parents didn't allow anything except, maybe becoming a male stripper or something like that.
I think you could do that. That shit would be awesome.
Which isn't too far off from, what you're doing right now, Jackson Stone.
Woohoo! Check out my underwear pics on the internet.
Yeah. But... no, they always were there to, like, I say the word empower a lot. They were always there to help me be successful, because ultimately that's a parent's goal, is to help their children be successful in life. But like I said, just being naive and not really knowing too much and just hearing stories of, creative aspect, you really got to push. And I was more of a, let the opportunity come to me rather than seek out the opportunity. And I think that shift in mindset really changed how I viewed how I wanted to live and stuff like that. It's great to have somebody just come to you and be like, hey, you could do this for, X amount of money or X amount of time, rather than really taking, the empowerment to back yourself and being able to seek out the opportunities yourself. And like I said, I'm still not great at selling myself. I do definitely sell myself short a bit, but being an opportunity seeker rather than an opportunity recipient has been big for me.
That's helped you, yeah.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's hard. A creative career is hard. having like kind of your own business is very hard, you know, because you're on the bright side, it's cool because you're in charge of everything.
Yeah.
Right, it's all on you. But on the same token, that's also very hard because it's all on you.
I was going to say, an audio engineering isn't like the cheapest career path in the world. Like,
right, you have to have good equipment, you have to invest money in all this stuff.
A nice microphone is more than an instrument. Like, it could be around $3,200 for just a nice microphone setup.
And these are necessities, right? You have to have these things.
Exactly, in order to record people to get the highest quality sounding, because that's what a goal is to help, enable people to sound the best that they can.
Right.
And back in high school, I wasn't really exposed to this whole, recording industry side of things and the computer, what it's like to be behind the computer rather than behind the instrument, because all I knew was live performances and that sort of thing. And that really helped evolve my mindset, was being able to, especially with streaming services, that really opened my mind to the amount of music that there is out there, rather than having to buy 99-cent song on iTunes or go to the library and get a CD or something. But having like an entire library of just music really helped open my mind. Like in high school, all I really listened to was classical, jazz, and then Lil Wayne and Mac Miller.
Mac Miller.
Yeah, right. Rest in peace.
Yeah, his anniversary of his death was like 2 days ago.
Yeah, but I was very narrow-minded when it came to music and stuff like that, and those sort of things helped open my mind and realize the opportunities that there truly are in the music and the audio world. Like, even I took a class for audio for film, and just learning about how everything that you hear is just a lie. Like watching horror movies or seeing some gut spewing out or somebody's bone breaking. Now I know it's just some jackass in a studio booth playing with frozen vegetables and crunching like carrots.
Really?
Or like playing with lettuce and stuff like that. Like, I
can't wait to come into your room and find you playing with lettuce and carrots.
I was gonna say, just making. I actually have a great sound library. Lots of crushing. And a lot of farts and belches that are good too on there. But yeah, just learning about even what you see on on film. There's somebody that has to put sound to that. So it's really opened my mind to that. And hopefully there will be opportunities. Plus most of the podcasts you hear, like we're doing right now, usually there's somebody in there that's making sure that the audio quality is at its fullest.
100%.
So, shameless plug, anybody that's listening and has a podcast.
Plug that shit.
Feel free to reach out to Jackson, who could hit me up, or I could be reached at sandsoundstudio.com or at gmail.com. Link in the description if you have one.
It will be on the website at jacksontalkseverybody.com.
Yeah, so even being able to sync up the dialogue that we're doing right now to the video that you have is something that I'm capable of doing, and even editing out the room that we're in, or just bringing out the qualities of everything. That's something that you just learn new things, and I'm really passionate about learning new things and how things work. Even aside from just the audio or technology stuff, I just like to be constantly learning and understanding new things. Like one of my favorite shows is Jeopardy, and the reason why is just because I learn new facts all the time just on Jeopardy. So being a lifelong learner is something that I consider myself, whether it's formal or informal education.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
Now I know you better. The people viewing know you better. And you're now officially part of the Jackson Stone team.
I'm glad to be a part of it. I just, I realized when I got in here and saw the merch that we have the same initials.
Yeah.
Joel Sands and Jackson Stone. So I see my initial. I'm gonna be rocking. People are gonna think I'm some, buddy walking around with his initials on his pants. And I'll be like, no, that's my roommate, Jackson Stone, not Joel Sands. Maybe I'll get, my business logo on there.
We're going to make an official new roommates tee. New Everybody's Land roommates tee.
Yeah, so...
But you did bring you brought some cool stuff to the house, though. We got, you can't see on camera, but whatever. We have, this really sweet trophy case with a bunch of Dirk Nowitzki bobbleheads. I just threw my Barry Bonds one in there. It's pretty dope.
I'm really into art. Got some art. My room's all filled with art.
And we have a sweet studio, kind of sound studio.
Yeah.
In Joel's room. We have a gym, beer pong room. I mean, we're just set up for all kinds of activities.
I was gonna say, I'm very, very satisfied with, like I said, how everything turned out.
Yeah.
Because coming from a studio bedroom in Phoenix where my kitchen was my bedroom, it's nice to have, a living room, even though I spend a lot of time in my room still. Now I'm in the kitchen too, cooking and not having to worry about the smell of, frying oil for, 10 days. Because let me tell you, during Hanukkah when I made latkes in my studio apartment and I could not get the smell out of...
Ooh, are you going to make latkes in December?
I am known for making latkes and homemade ones, so...
Let's go!
So any, nice...
Hanukkah party at Everybody's Land.
Jewish ladies out there that need a guy that knows how to cook,
Cook latkes and curry.
Yeah, I made some curry the other day. I do matzo ball soup. I just, cooking's a nice little outlet for me.
Just a renaissance man.
Yeah, nothing brings people, together more than, I guess, music and food.
That's so true, though.
And
so true. You can easily create connection over music and food.
Exactly.
And that's beautiful.
And that's, really, I guess, my aside from, like I said, fulfilling a parent's legacy, it's, just building genuine relationships with people. That's really all I want to, do in life is just connect. I don't want to live old and...
I talk about that. That's my most talked about point on this show is real, genuine human connection.
Yeah, we're human. We're not robots or programmed.
We're meant to live this life together.
Exactly. So...
Beautiful. Okay. Well, any closing thoughts, remarks, statements?
No, like I said again, I'm really appreciative of being here. If anybody needs some audio work done, again, link on his page to my email.
Yeah, will be on the website, and there'll be a link to his Instagram as well if you want to DM him there. Yeah,
I'd be happy to do so. I'm willing, if you give me your recording, I'm willing to give you a smart or a little short snippet back for free to see if I'm somebody that you want to go with before I give you the full in-length piece of audio or music or whatever you're working on, just to know, that I'm a good fit, that you like me. So yeah, there's my little shameless business plug.
There's your
I guess
spiel
that I could get in the podcast. So.
There we go. Well, love it. Welcome to Everybody's Land. Thank you everyone for watching. As always, I appreciate you guys. Genuinely, this is amazing. But yeah, if you like this episode, or if you liked any episode really of this podcast / YouTube show, please tell a friend, share with a friend, rate, comment, subscribe, like. Thank you so much. Take care. I love you. Take care of your mental health, and see you next time.